What is cooler than Disneyland? Well, I'm a mom of 5 and I will tell you that I would much rather be in my worm farm than around a bunch of lights, camera, and action, because worm farming has brought me so much joy, but it's also brought me a lot of peace, and I've made money from my worm farm. I listed some worm castings on Facebook Marketplace, and in one weekend I sold $500 of trash. It wasn't trash when I sold it, it was actually rich organic matter, but it was trash when it started out. I got eco-anxiety after reading a book with my daughter about trash, and lo and behold, families can reduce their eco-anxiety by starting compost bins. Well, I started a compost bin and I was doing it all wrong. The smell that was coming from this bin was awful. I didn't know it, but I was creating methane gas. And hey, methane gas is something that we're all creating when we throw trash into our trash bins and it goes to the landfill. So I didn't really feel bad about it because, hey, my trash can just smelled, or my trash can, my neighbor's trash cans, they all smelled just as bad. But what I didn't know is that by adding a small tiny cup of worms from Tractor Supply to the bin would turn my compost bin into a thriving business. And so today I'm going to share exactly how you can start a worm farm. You are a farmer because you have livestock and worms are your livestock. How you can turn your worm farm into something that will leave your legacy better than before you started a worm bin. I don't know, maybe you're a greenie person, maybe you already are consciously throwing trash away, but I wasn't, and still I'm not perfect at it. Sitting next to my son's 3D printer that he just got so he could sell some stuff at a market. I have 5 kids, we are homeschoolers, and I will tell you that I've learned more by having a worm farm, by starting sourdough in the last 5 years than I have ever before in my life. And it's because I didn't know it, but I actually love botany. So plants are my passion, and native plants are something that are really near and dear to my heart. And so the first question you want to ask yourself when starting your worm farm is who you want to sell to. And really, worm castings sold themselves. I put up a post in Facebook Marketplace, and I made $500 my first weekend ever of trying to sell worm castings. I didn't know that worm castings were like this really rich and abundant, they're abundant with life. We know that they have microorganisms in there that our soil actually needs to thrive and to create healthier and better plants. They look better, they taste better, they probably smell better, I don't know, depending on what you're growing, right? So the first question that I would ask myself is, who do I want to sell to? When I put that first post up on Marketplace, I didn't really know what I was doing at all as far as like who I was marketing to or who wanted these. It was kind of just like, hey, I have these and I know that they're very rich and worth a lot of money according to the book that I had read. I read the Worm Farmer's Handbook. I'll leave a list of the books that I read below, but what she said was that people in other countries are actually creating businesses, like women in Iran and other countries that where women are kind of not able to do maybe a man's job or something. They're creating these worm farms and they're actually prospering from this particular business. It's a really cool book. Go ahead and pick that up. I think you can get it for free. I'm going to try to find the link. But yeah, so who do you want to sell to? When I put the Facebook Marketplace post up, I didn't know that I would get mostly gardeners that were looking just to add nutrition to their garden beds. And so yeah, a bunch of mostly women wanted the worm castings, and then I noticed that men were asking about the worms. Somebody wanted to compost their dog's waste, and so they were inquiring like, hey, do you know anything about this? Do you know if this is something I can do? I will tell you right now, I told him, I don't feel comfortable giving my worms or selling my worms to you because that just doesn't seem like a great idea. And I have changed my mind completely about the power of worms. I learned that in other countries, people actually use worms to compost their human waste. It's called humanure, and it's a whole thing that other countries are doing, which I think is amazing. And I wish that in smaller communities here in America, that's something that we could start doing. But I don't know. I maybe in my next era of when my kids are all out of the house, that's something that I could look more into. But who do you want to sell to? Is it gardeners? Is it farmers? Is it people with small scale farms? Is it people that are going and selling at the market? Is it people that want to compost their cow manure and create more castings for them to sell? Like, who is it? I sold my worms and castings recently to another worm farmer in my town. I actually thought that I was moving, so I got rid of all of my worms and castings at a really low rate. And I was sad about it, but at the same time, I felt really happy because she is teaching classes all over the Treasure Valley. And giving the worms to her made me feel like this is exactly why we started this. We started it for my family to have less eco-anxiety, and then I thought I finished it, but I'm still here. I finished it by spreading these worms to other families and communities where they can bring joy and abundance and the ability to recycle to the whole area in the Treasure Valley. I mean, greenhouses are getting these classes, and it's amazing. I'm sorry, I probably took that one too far, but who do you want to sell to? Do you want to sell to greenhouses and maybe even sell at greenhouses? I mean, the sky is the limit for worm castings. Go and watch any documentary right now about soil and you will see worms, and likely you will hear about worm farming, worm castings, how to have a worm bin in these documentaries, because it is something that people have been doing for a long time, but it's also something that's popularizing because people that have gardens are realizing that their family could be a lot healthier with worm castings. Okay. So what do you want to sell? Yes, I can sell worm castings, but I will tell you that it takes kind of a long time. After I sold those worm castings to the other worm farmer, it took quite a long time to make more. And even now it's been months and my worms are still working through all of the food that we gave them. I actually had to stop because the worm bins were getting a little full. They did not smell at all. Worm castings actually smell like a forest floor, and they deter things like ticks. So yeah, if you want to sell worms and you're asking, well, let's go back to the who real quick. You can actually sell them to people who have land and don't want ticks on their land. They could add it to their grass. They could add it to their plants. It is a tick deterrent. I just read this. What don't worm castings do is the question that you need to be asking yourself when you're trying to sell them. They do so many wonderful things. And so what do you want to sell? Do you want to sell worm castings? Do you want to sell worms? Do you want to sell both? Because some people want to add worms to their garden, and yes, they will survive, but I would suggest reading a bit about how to teach other people how to have worms in their garden, because you have to have a good mulched area. They will live in the wild. These are wild animals, and when I see a lot of rules about worm farming, I kind of get a little bit like, wait, these are wild animals, and they're actually not animals, they're considered parasites. So there's a little education for you today. But I once heard a guy in a Facebook group, I didn't hear him, I read his post that he said, hey, worms eat shit. Don't be afraid of putting things into your worm bin. When I heard that, I started putting my family's wool clothes in there. I started putting okay, I'll tell you right now, I put my placenta in one. I had a home birth. I put my placenta in one of the worm bins and I cannot find it. I don't know which bin I put it in. I don't know where it went, but it was full of life and the worms went to town on it, and they turned it into, they have enzymes in their gut that actually turn anything and everything like salmonella or things that we would find in nature. They turn it into something great, something that will benefit humanity. And so what am I talking about? Oh yeah, what do you want to sell? Do you want to sell worm castings? Do you want to sell worms? And don't worry, I'll keep those in my garden, okay, those worm castings. But do you want to sell a course? People want to know how to worm farm. How, if I just have a standard bucket that I recycled, I emptied it out and I drilled holes in it and I added worms to it and I put cardboard in it. When do I add the food? How much food do I add? And I will tell you right now that I have answered all of those questions by doing it. So if you're new to this and you have questions about how to worm farm, I suggest just getting started. Most of the questions will be answered by observation. Check in on your worms every day. That was one of the biggest takeaways that I got from Rhonda Sherman's book, the Worm Farmer's Handbook, was she said you got to check on your worms every day. And maybe I won't get out there and turn the bins every day, and maybe I won't check in on them every day, but I will tell you that in the summer I'm in there every other day because it is so fascinating just to watch the changes. Humans need change, and when we got grocery stores, it took away our ability to go and see things in nature change, because we don't need to go and gather food anymore, right? We're not looking for winter edibles out in the wild. So when you have a worm farm, things are changing consistently. You're getting new critters in your bins, and you're trying to figure out, what in the heck did I do wrong? Why are there slugs in here? And I will tell you right now that happened over winter to me, and I didn't worry. I said, okay, the bins are a little wet. I let rainwater in, and now they're soaked. And so these start to replicate soil biomes, your worm bins. So you're going to get other critters in there. And that is actually from the Worm Farmer Handbook by Rhonda Sherman. She said that. And when she said that, I stopped worrying. One thing she did say is that you want to avoid centipedes, because they will go after your worm eggs. And I have a ton of centipedes in my worm bin, and the worms still outnumber them. So once the worms stop outnumbering the centipedes, then I will start to worry. But my worms are very lush. I don't know what other word to use. And I think the reason is that I've been doing it for such a long time. So my suggestion is, don't give up if you run into obstacles. Keep going and keep on watching how much food you're feeding. If you're doing organic waste like me, banana peels, apple cores, salad that went bad in the refrigerator, always check what your ratios are. If the worm bin is full of food, you're gonna get other critters because they're there to decompose your stuff, right? Make sure you're adding what makes the worms happy so that they continue to stay in your bin and help it remain a worm bin, right? That's our goal. We want worm bins. We don't want ant farms. So the way to do this is to always add enough mulch. Mulch would be anything that came from a tree, right? It's what composters call carbon sources. So wood chips, I would suggest not doing, because those take forever to decompose. Unless you don't mind wood chips, unless you're doing this for yourself and you just want to have a worm bin and you're going to use your worm castings and you don't mind wood chips in your garden, because gardeners love wood chips, right? Then don't worry about it. But if you're going to be, you know what? I'm going to tell you, add wood chips. That's fine. And see how it works out, right? My favorite and most abundant resource has been Trader Joe's brown bags. Those things have decomposed by the hundreds into my worm bins, and my worms seem to really like them. Anytime you pick up a decomposing brown bag from Trader Joe's, the worms have made a home there. They've homaged, they've started to eat it, right? Once that brown paper gets wet, make sure it's wet carbon, not soaking, not just like you sprayed a little bit of water on it. I like to soak my bags, and sometimes I don't. I'm going to tell you, a lot of the rules that I share are just ones that are best worm farming practices, right? Sometimes I've got a baby on my hip and a toddler that's upset about her lunch or something like that, and I just have to kind of like toss the brown bags into the worm bin and hope for the best. I will tell you, they always go away. Once you have that healthy, thriving microorganism happy, worm happy, once those microorganisms start the decomposition process, those worms will go after the microbes and they will eat the microbes, and then they will munch a little bit on the food. So I will tell you right now, to have a healthy worm farm, if you want to make money, decide what you want to sell. Are you selling worm castings? Are you selling a course? And I just taught you a bit about worm farming. Sorry, maybe you know a lot of this, but other people don't. People are just starting worm bins all over. Like I said, where I live, called the Treasure Valley here in Idaho, people are just starting worm bins from these classes. And they don't know much. They're gonna run into a lot of things, and a lot of people just wanna know what to do next. So sell a course, go on YouTube. Something that I love doing and that I sell are shirts. I mean, you've created this community of gardeners who want healthy soil, and that alone is a strong community that's willing to support what other people in their community are doing. Maybe they want to buy seeds from you. Maybe they want to buy farm goods from you. Do you want to sell at the farmer's market? I read an article that a guy in Boise, Idaho is a worm farmer, and he's selling 2 pounds of worm castings for $10. I sold 5 pounds of worm castings for $20. This is not a cheap business. This is not a business that you have to, be working your tail off to make money. This is something that your worms do for you. You do have to go out there and check. You do have to aerate the bins. You do have to feed them and make sure that there's, whatever your goal is. If it's to grow your worm farm, you got to make sure that you're adding you're doing the right input. But I will tell you right now, I made the most money from this particular job because it takes the least amount of my time. And when I do put my time into it, it is the most enjoyable time. Why? Because I worm farm outside. I'm getting vitamin D. I'm getting bacteria like Mycobacterium vaccae. And you do want to take caution about the molds that are going to be in your bins. But once again, these are just microorganisms doing their job and making sure that there's a healthy biome inside of your worm bin. Where do you want to sell them? I went to Facebook Marketplace because I can nurse and make a Facebook Marketplace post and be done with it. My kids are doing the farmer's market, and my daughter has asked me, Mom, can I sell worm castings? And you know what my answer was? Yes, because we are Wild Bungalow LLC. And I have incorporated myself, and she can collect taxes, and we can do this as a family and learn how to be healthy worm farmers, a healthy family, learn how to do business, educate ourselves on the market, and all of these wonderful things. So farmers market, online, greenhouses that are local to you. And I'm just doing the 5 W's here, so we'll move on to why. Why do you want to do this? If it's just for money, I will tell you right now, and you just give it up right now, because worms are kind of icky. Some people were not meant to deal with trash, right? I think I was one of those people. I'm always the people looking through the rocks and trying to find trash and just noticing every little detail in my home. When my kids, when my kids have dropped a Lego, I'm like, oh my gosh, I see that Lego over there in the corner of my eye. I've just been very sensitive to waste and to, plastics and trash. And it's been a wonderful thing for me. I wish I would have found this in my high school years, but then maybe I would have hated it by the time I'm 40, right? I'm gonna be 41 soon. Maybe my children wouldn't have been a part of this. Maybe I would have had 5 children. Maybe I would have been traveling the world teaching other people how to worm farm. But here I am on YouTube, and you're watching this video on purpose. I will say that you are here on purpose. How do you want to do this? Head to my next video and watch how I start a worm bin from a storage tote. You can speed up the video because it's really self-explanatory. Basically, you're gonna drill holes in a plastic bucket, but I share how to start your very first worm bin in that next video. Go ahead and head to it now and watch.